JJ McCarthy's return is not going to save the Minnesota Vikings. With a Carson Wentz officially out for the year with left shoulder surgery, the QB position is now entirely in the hands of JJ McCarthy and Max Brosmer. But we've seen they're looking to add a veteran quarterback before the trade deadline. Multiple reports have showed that, and maybe a Kirk Cousins reunion is possible. We'll see, but who knows? But no matter who they add, this is not the same team as it was in 2024. This defense, first and foremost, has not been the same. Going from a top 10 unit in 2024 to now 18th in points, 14th in total yards, 8th against the Pats, which is actually a big improvement from 2024, but 24th against the run. 130 yards per game is much worse than it was in 2024. The sack numbers are also way down, just 15th in the league as well. So a defense led by Brian Flores that isn't nearly as good as it was in their 14-3 season last year. Some of the under the hood numbers are a little bit better, but still not great. However, it's been under a lot of pressure because this offense has been truly brutal to watch this season. This offense ranks 26th in total yards, 20th in pass yards, 26th in rush yards, and 18th in points per game. They've been bad at moving the ball, I should say, and they've been turning it over a lot. 12 giveaways. The only team in the NFL that has more giveaways than the Minnesota Vikings is the Tennessee Titans. 13-12. The Titans have one more giveaway than the Minnesota Vikings. So they've been giving the football away like it's candy on Halloween, which is coming up here in a couple days. But still, they've been giving the ball away a lot is the point, okay? And they've taken the fourth most sacks in football. Now, you can blame Carson Wentz for a lot of that. He's notorious for taking a lot of sacks, and they can't convert on third down either. Fourth worst on third downs in football, just 33% on third downs. Plus, they've got the seventh most penalties in football as well. There's been a ton of injuries on the offensive line, no doubt. Both tackles, Darisaw and O'Neal, have missed time. Ryan Kelly right now is on the IR with concussion issues, and he was supposed to be a big offseason add to the interior of that offensive line at the center positions as well. But let's call a spade a spade. The QB play has been absolutely atrocious for these Minnesota Vikings. JJ McCarthy started the first two games, played one outstanding quarter of football, the fourth quarter versus the Bears, and was terrible for the other 7 quarters of football that he played. Carson Wentz is Carson Wentz. We know what we're getting from Carson Wentz at this point, and it's not a good NFL quarterback, and it's a quarterback that we may never see start another football game. PFF has this passing game graded as the worst passing game in football, compared to 9th, like it was in 2024 that PFF had them graded as, which leads me to say this. NFL teams, especially offensive genius head coaches like Kevin O'Connell, the grass is not always greener, and y'all cannot make it work with every single quarterback. The Vikings had one quarterback in the building last year in Sam Darnold that they saw could be an MVP candidate and win games with them, and they let him walk, okay? They had another one that they didn't know could be an MVP candidate, and they also let him walk in Daniel Jones, but Daniel Jones has showed this year that he can also be an MVP candidate, both of which they could have re-signed on effectively one-year deals. That's what Jones signed in Indy, and that's basically Darnold's contract in Seattle. Like how the money's structured in Seattle, it's basically a one-year deal for Sam Darnold with the Seattle Seahawks as well. Instead, you're sitting here stuck with Max Brosmer and JJ McCarthy. And while I'm not out on JJ McCarthy, he's the youngest quarterback in football. He needs time to develop, and he's been injury prone as well. What I just said, however, is an amazing reason to re-sign one of those quarterbacks that I just said, either Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones, because you know how young JJ McCarthy is, and he was coming off a season, obviously a lost season with that torn meniscus as well. So the fact that this offense with these weapons and this offensive mind is struggling this bad definitely has to do with the injury to McCarthy and the offensive line. But the bigger issue is the Minnesota Vikings and Kevin O'Connell thought that they could just let this MVP caliber quarterback walk in free agency and be fine in the next year. That's a level of arrogance that could potentially be dangerous for this organization and for this organization in the future. But fellas, I got to kick it to you. What do you think about JJ McCarthy in this entire Minnesota Vikings organization and quarterback situation so far?
It's bad. It's bad. And
right
now, the longer this goes, right, the more games JJ McCarthy misses, the less competent at quarterback he looks, the worse that number 10 pick in 2024 is. You essentially wasted a draft pick on JJ McCarthy. Everyone else knows the quarterbacks that came out in that draft, right? Bo Nix leads the league in all kinds of statistical categories. All the Denver Bronco fans have made it apparent to me that he's the best quarterback in the 2024 draft class, according to them, in every statistical category, because they're just box score merchants, apparently. And then you look at JJ McCarthy, right? And he was picked ahead of Bo Nix by a margin, right? And, you look at how this is playing out, and when we saw JJ McCarthy, like, oh, he's a locker room presence, he's a leader. We started looking at his intangibles of things you can't teach, right? You can teach him how to play quarterback, but we all had the questions, right? Michigan wasn't a passing offense. He wasn't asked to throw the ball that much. Okay, well, you brought him into an offense that's been middle to lower end of the pack in rushing capability. You don't really run the ball well. You haven't ran the ball well, and you probably won't run the ball well. And I could honestly say you haven't ran the ball well since Adrian Peterson stopped donning a Vikings jersey. And your primary capability here is to pass the football. I wholeheartedly believe that if the Atlanta Falcons had not picked Michael Penix, the Minnesota Vikings would have picked Michael Penix. I believe that in my heart. I think that pick got them to panic, and they had to choose between JJ McCarthy and Bo Nix, and you picked wrong. You picked wrong.
I want to make this very clear as well. Like, I don't think either of us liked JJ McCarthy or Bo Nix coming out of the draft, especially not as first round picks. It has nothing to do also with the fact that they're not like talented. It's the fact that they're not first round talents. That is quite simply it. Now, for Bo Nix is getting away with it, in my opinion, because of the fact that Sean Payton's his head coach, right? And Sean Payton being your head coach, I think changes some things. And also, Bo Nix has been healthy. Bo Nix has been available, and he's gotten a great system around him, right? The offensive line is good. So many things. With JJ McCarthy, he came in immediately tore his ACL. Was it his ACL?
His meniscus.
Meniscus. He immediately tore his meniscus. Out for the year, right? So immediately they go to Darnold. Darnold performs like an MVP candidate, like Matt said. And then what happens is, okay, well, we now have to move towards the future. Sam, you're not our future. We're going to go to JJ. This is sneakily one of the worst QB situations in all of football. And now I'm not comparing it to the likes of like the Saints, the likes of the Browns. But if things don't work out for JJ McCarthy, it could get to that level. Now, there's still time. He could be healthy and he could start balling out from here. He could. But it's going to be a tall task, especially since their next couple of games, they're going to be facing the Lions, then they face the Ravens, then they face the Bears, then they face the Packers, then they face the Seahawks. It's not going to get easy, okay? We're talking about like a lot. It's going to be divisional opponent after divisional opponent, and these guys are going to get after JJ, and he hasn't had enough reps to really get comfortable. So, if anything, Kevin O'Connell's the one thing that should be a constant. I think he's a phenomenal coach. I think he stays. I think the problem is the pick of JJ McCarthy and the fact that he can't stay healthy, the fact that he still, even back to his college days, hasn't really proven that he can throw at a consistent rate. Guys, we're talking about a potential catastrophic situation in Minnesota if JJ McCarthy doesn't pull it together soon.
This has been Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details.